Hey everyone, my name is Patrick Akil, and for today's episode, we cover remote company culture. It's a hard thing to do as an organization, being fully remote, and it hasn't been established yet. So you're always trying to figure out what the right way is and how to do things in the first place. I invited my friend Alvaro Moya on to share his experience as a remote tech manager, as well as being a founder of Leader.co, which is a fully remote startup. Don't forget to like and subscribe when you're on YouTube, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Enjoy.
Beyond Coding. Welcome to Beyond Coding, a dive into the world of successful people in IT. From your sponsors, Zebia, creating digital leaders. Here's your host, Patrick Akil.
Hey Alvaro, how's it going?
Hey Patrick, nice to see you here. Thank you for this welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We've had some difficulties, audio formatting, video stopped with recording, and luckily it's all within the first few minutes. So this is take number 3 and third time's the charm. So I invited you on to talk about kind of remote company culture and remote organizations in and of itself. I think the pandemic has forced a lot of companies to go remote, right? And now they're adopting either full remote or hybrid even. But you've been doing that a little while before that already as well. Let's start with what you're doing with your company currently and how that's been going so far.
Yeah. So, I started Leader.co immediately after the lockdown. I think it was summer 2020 during the pandemic actually. And what we are doing is training other aspiring tech leaders to become that, senior developers, maybe others that want to be entrepreneur CTOs at some point. And we are training to go that way because that's something difficult. There is a lack of information and a lack of proper training for that. So we were finding this sweet spot based on on my experience in this case as a CTO, trying to hire this kind of middle management layer and being totally unable to do it and totally unable to train my own team to grow to that position. So that's why I went that way at that point in time.
Awesome. And when you decided to start your journey, did you already have that idea in mind to go full remote in the first place?
Yeah, actually, I had this idea since I think late 2017.
Yeah.
I wanted to believe that being a remote manager was as feasible as being a remote developer, living this nomad dream. I was really in love with, you can see behind me, right?
Yeah.
This kind of tropical places, right? So
beautiful.
I dreamt of working from anywhere, and from that point on, I was looking for companies that allowed me to work remote in some way, and then getting started to that. So when I was creating my own company, at some point in time, I knew that it would happen in the future. I was totally prepared, and I knew the drawbacks, I knew the trade-offs, I knew where were the main challenges in order to create it and succeed right from the beginning. Then the pandemic started. More people were joining this wave. More companies were supporting this change in behavior for the companies, this new workplace. And then it was even easier for me, even if I had the techniques and the tools, some of the tools in terms of software. Others were created, some of them were improved, and now it's much better experience. So I went totally remote from the very beginning. I wanted to be exposed to a global pool of talent. So.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, your scope of talent all of a sudden goes from kind of within your own city, within your own country, to the whole world, right? That's a crazy kind of multiplier. But I like the contrast that you lay out in that being a remote developer, I think, is easier than being a remote manager. I mean, I've done the one, but I haven't done the other. But as a developer, I mean, it's pretty straightforward what you need to do. You have some kind of sprint rituals or something, but when you have a keyboard, you can go ahead and do your thing. Well, as managing other people, I think there's a whole different kind of challenge in doing that remote. What are some of the difficulties that you've seen in kind of managing people or a team remote?
Yeah. I wanted to believe, and I wanted first to validate it, right? For me, everything is lean. I needed to validate my assumptions, my hypothesis. And it's true that the people component is much harder, but at least it's possible. You are losing some things. So right now, if I have to say something, I would love to have kind of a hybrid environment where you meet with the team for certain rituals, certain meetings, certain moments, right? And then having kind of these days off with the whole company, kind of this retirement with the whole team, at least one every 6 months, once a year, depending on your budget and your capacity. But I think with that, you are avoiding parts of the traps of remote working. So that's for me the perfect way to do it, right? Even if if you have a headquarters, but not all the people can join, you still have these days off with the whole team to enjoy, to gather together, to meet them more on a personal level, and enjoy out of work.
Because then, are you saying that remote kind of bonding is harder to do than in person? I would assume so, right?
No, it's much harder. It has some advantages, like being able to work from these kind of places, like less cost of life. Being able to hire globally, which means less cost for the company. But at the same time, it's much more difficult to keep aligned. It's much more difficult to build rapport, to build confidence and trust with your team, because you have never met in person. You don't know how that people is out of, 9 to 6. At some point. So you need to go the extra mile to get to know them personally, to know what they like to do in their free time. These kind of things is what is building the real trust with others, and then building this kind of family that are companies in some way. And that's much more difficult when you only have a camera and a microphone.
Exactly.
So it's a bit more difficult. You need to over communicate. There are a lot of challenges there. That makes the situation not as perfect and as pleasant as, okay, I can remove my office, save some costs, and that's it. No, it's adding a new set of challenges, and not everyone is prepared for them.
I can imagine. So, you already touched upon it. I think trust is really hard to, first of all, from an employee to kind of gain, and from an employer, hopefully trust is kind of out of the box, right? Hopefully that you trust the people that you hire. But I think in a remote setting, it's kind of weird, because as you mentioned, their values from kind of a people point in how they work and stuff. But outside of that, it's kind of harder to gauge, right? You really need to be in person to get that bonding in, to get that trust up to par, that rapport, and kind of form your company culture. Walk me through kind of the first hire, because I think one of the first hires is always going to get a lot of trust, especially when you're building a company from the ground up, right? You're not going to do it by yourself. You need a team, and you need people within that team that you trust, that can do their own thing, and that you value as well. How was that for you?
So first of all, I think I was adding another layer of complexity to the mix. Because I was not directly hiring people from the day one. I was working with agencies, with freelancers. So not having a contract that at some point for some people means that you have this compromise with and commitment with the company was not there. So freelance, if they have, an offer they cannot reject, or a new big project with, Google. Right?
That's it.
They will say, okay, I will just finish this part of the work, and from 3 days on, I will be out. So you need to build an extra commitment from an agency to keep working with you under your premises when you are not really extremely rich. You don't have the budget to pay a lot. So you need to compensate with other things, not for an employee, for someone that can decide tomorrow that another employer can be better, another company. Right. So that was another layer of difficulty. But for me, it's all about betting on long-term relationships. And I'm very clear. No matter if we are going to hire someone or we are going to work with another company as a provider, I'm betting long-term, and I'm clear about that. So setting expectations for me is what has worked the best. Like, hey, we are going to try. We start lean. We are going to try, but I don't want to have this conversation again next month. So if we are working together and this is working, and then through the first challenges, we understand each other, we can solve it together.
Yeah.
Then this will be for the long term. And this is my vision of the long term of, in this case, leader.
Yeah.
This is what I want to achieve. Are you in? Are you out? That's it.
Yeah.
Right. And it has worked pretty well. And I have to say that the company, my first hire, it was a marketing and growth company, is still working with me after 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's a good representation of how building trust pays off at the end.
Yeah.
And that's my only, if I would say, secret sauce. Setting clear expectations and then building trust and demonstrating that I'm going to be there for them. No matter if they are a contractor or they are an employee, I have to be there for them. I treat them equally. I build everything for them. I don't care if they are an agency or not. I include them in all the communication channels. I give them access to all the private things they need in order to perform. So they can be autonomous, as it will be an employee from my side, which is what I expect and is the way I understand high-performance teams. They are not depending on you. You are not a bottleneck. So,
exactly.
Treating them equally, I think it's felt on the other side.
Yeah.
Even if it's totally remote, a different culture, because in this case, they are from Colombia.
Yeah.
Even at that point, I think it is felt if someone really cares about you or not, no matter if you are a company or not, especially if you are a company, that someone is taking care of you as an employee and is behaving in that way with you. I think you can feel it on the other side. Yeah. And that's how the relationship is going well.
Yeah, I love that. It's just clear and open communication, right? And honesty. And it should be a win-win, no matter if you're an employee or a company working together. The best win is the win-win, basically, which means everyone gets better because of it. And I love that you're saying, well, I'm very clear in that, and that you want long-term partners, right? People that are going to join your company really need to believe in its mission and its values, stand behind it before they can give that commitment, right? Because it is a commitment. If you're across from me and you're saying, listen, Patrick, it's going to be long-term, I'm going to be like, man, that's a big commitment. Like a lot of stars need to align for me to give that commitment. And one of the ways you do that is by just being clear, open, and honest on how you act, basically. How was it when someone... Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, your speech was reminding me a couple of things. First, when you say that this has to be a win-win. Yeah. In that expectations, I'm setting my expectations clear, but I'm also willing to know how is the development or their career they aspire to have, no matter if they are an employee or a company. Yeah. Where they want to focus on, right? So having those dreams, those aspirations in mind as well, is when you are really building this win-win relationship. It's not only about being clear about your expectation from them and what they can expect from you, but it's also that you are taking into account what they want to become. Yeah. Right. So they can judge, they can assess by themselves if they want to be in that journey. So that journey is helping them to become what they want. And I can assess from my side if I'm going to kind of sacrifice parts of that dream, and then being clear about, okay, I can tell you that this is going to happen, but I cannot promise you that this will happen. Exactly. Right. Or at least in my plan is on a 2 years range. So they can manage that expectations and then really commit on the long term with me, which is more thought process, right? It's not an immediate action. They need to plan, they need to see, and that part is very, very important. And when you talk about clear communication, don't forget documentation, because in a remote environment, what you write lasts, what you don't write doesn't last, unless you are recording every single session as we are doing. So we are recording all the meetings in order to support that written documentation. We are transcribing them. So if someone is missing it, you know that we are creating that documentation on the fly. Nice. So that were the two topics I wanted to add.
Nice. I wanna zoom into the documentation and kind of the remote meetings and the recordings in a bit. But I love that what you're saying is, let me step back. I think when people leave a company, it's because they either don't like what they're doing anymore, they don't like who they're doing it with, or they don't see the growth for themselves, right? In the role that they aspire to be and the one they have now, right? If there's no way forward, you're going to look elsewhere, right? Outside of a company. And by having that conversation up front, right, you already ask of them, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? Because obviously, if this is going to be a long-term relationship, you need to know as an employer, so you can either make sure you can make it happen or help them get there, or you can be clear and be like, well, listen, we can help you with these steps, but this is not really the organization if you want to do that, right? It's very clear up front, instead of when they join you and they figure out, oh, these are not my aspirations. This is going nowhere for me as a person. So I love that you highlight that basically already within those conversations. And also, obviously, it also works with an organization, right? Organizations have the same goals as people, except maybe on a bigger scale, right? On a company goal. And a win-win is really when you can help them reach their goal and they can help you vice versa as well.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned, I think, which is the RED framework from Too Many Bosses, Too Few Leaders, that book, which is the role, the environment, and development are the three main motivators for everyone at work. If they are leaving a job, normally 99% of the cases is either by one of the cases, one of the three main buckets. And I am trying to apply that to my company from day one. This is something we teach, we preach in Leader, and we need to apply ourselves. We don't want to apply things that we don't sell to others. That is the good way to create a company, to create a team, to be a leader in a company, right? So we are applying that, and for that point, that expectations matter a lot. Which environment you are going to find, and if I can open the door as much as possible to show how it's going to be with this lean period, this trial period that is also a trial for them, much better. If I can know in advance what they expect from their own growth, much better. If they understand exactly what they are expected to do, which is going to be the role, how this role can evolve over time, and they have the clear vision and goals of the company, so they can get inspired, the better. I was doing for big companies as a CTO, and I was applying that in my company. That was my learning journey, and that's why I was going through all the steps of a startup, from solopreneur, creating the company, to unicorn. I was there not only to enjoy, not only to grow, not only to earn more or have more impact, but also I was taking a lot of notes about every single day, all the challenges you face in every single moment of the career of the company, right? Of the development of the company. So I understood some time ago that in the first steps, all those things were important, were relevant, because the first people are key people for the growth of the company. You are still in the Death Valley, so you succeed or you really surrender. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of make or break in those early stages. Yeah. What do you do if someone, when you ask that question, like where do you want to be in a few years? Let's say you join the company that you have. What if people don't know that? Do you help and kind of guide them in that way as well? Because I'm looking at myself and I'm pretty early in career, I think, still. And I wouldn't have known for a few years ago where I wanted to be kind of a few years ahead. How do you advise someone there? The thing is that what we do in Leader is basically mentoring others. It's not just, I don't know, a training or a set of materials to know what to expect from a tech lead role or engineering manager role. We are mentoring them. We are going with them through the way. And in order to understand if the career is for them first, so going at the top of the funnel, hey, you are a senior developer, have you already thought about becoming a tech lead, becoming an engineering manager, going this engineering management path that is a totally different profession, or not? And if not, we have a career development guide where we ask the person to really disconnect for 1 hour and a half with a set of questions. And it is part SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses that they have, what they want to do, what they like now about his or her role, what they don't like, what they think they are going to like and they are not going to like from the new role, how the current company can support them in that growth, if any, or if not, they will know that they need to jump into another place. All of those questions are part of our mentoring process, the internal mentoring process we follow when you buy any of our training products or directly the mentoring sessions. So we apply the same for the team. Another exercise that is complementing that is called visualization. And visualization starts with a picture like this. Like, provide me with a picture that represents your ideal life in 2 years.
Okay.
Right? Where would you like to go? Because this is going to be something that you need to see every day and say to yourself, I am fighting for that. That's why. This is the why that is behind the what I am doing now and how I am doing that. It's because I want that why, right? And then you can go and detail all the things that are related to that life. What do you wear? Where do you eat? How do you live? In a flat, in a house? Do you have kids? Do you have family? Do you have I don't know, you have a couple? Are you close home and your relatives, or are you far away?
Yeah.
All of that things are going to configure an ideal life. And depending on this ideal life, especially regarding time, availability, and where you are located, this will define, this will restrict or not the kind of job you can perform.
Yeah.
And that's for me the entry point. So your personal life first, and then the job has to accommodate the life you want to pursue. So this is more or less what we do for our mentoring sessions, and this is what I apply as well to my team.
Yeah, I love that. When people don't have that step on the horizon, right, that self-reflection and those questions are really just going to help them in where they want to be on a personal level, right? Because you first need to be happy on a personal level, because I think without that, you can't really thrive in your work as much, or in the way that it should be, right? It should be a healthy balance in that way. So first, get that step on the horizon for your personal life. Where do you want to be? And how does the work kind of fit into that picture in the end of the day? Right? For you, it's the beautiful beach picture you have behind you. And then remote company and remote settings work a lot and work well in that way as well. Yeah.
Exactly. So the good thing of having a remote environment is that more pictures fit for everyone, right?
Yeah.
If I am telling you that we are going to fulfill together this vision, I am telling you, we are going to fulfill together the vision you have for your life.
Yeah.
And this can happen from wherever you want. I don't have expectations in time. That flexibility, that is total flexibility in terms of when you are investing that time.
Yeah.
As long as you are there for some critical meetings where we need to be live, right? That's everything I need from you. If the expectations, the objectives are clear, and this is other thing that you need to master when you have a remote company, then the people should be able to work asynchronously. You will have good communication channels to detect and communicate blockers.
Yeah.
So you could be doing the work from wherever and at every single point in time, no matter if it's 4 a.m. for you and you perform better at night with a Red Bull, or you are an early bird and you perform better at 6 a.m. in your time zone. Yeah. Right? I will respect that. I will respect your internal kind of behavior, your internal motivators, and you need to address this in order to thrive, to really be this high performer. If I am forcing you to work from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., and you know that this is destroying you because it's the moment where you have the lowest energy, I'm not going to get the most out of you. You are not going to get the most out of your work. No one is going to be happy. So that's one part of being high performer, that you manage your energy properly. The other one out of 5 from Brendan Butcher, that is a very big influencer for me in this kind of concept of high performance, is clarity. Yeah. Right. So being able to know that for 2 years, you are going to be fighting for something that is very clear in your mind, that you see every single day, are 2 of the 5 components of high performance. So that's why we try.
Yeah. I was thinking about earlier something you said in already, right? Documentation is very important in a remote setting, but I don't know why as much. I'm thinking about why that could be. And also, I mean, you're recording your own meetings. Why do you do that? Why is documentation so important when your company is fully remote, or your setting is remote in the first place?
Because in an informal environment where you are working together in the same space, a lot of information can flow informally. Yeah. Right. And maybe it's going to get lost, but at least it's already in more than one mind. Yeah. When you are working solo, when you are when you are in a remote company, most of the time you are working alone at your home or whatever, but you are working alone.
Yeah.
You don't have any kind of buzz, any kind of noise around. You are not being aware of what's happening, where the people is being blocked. You have nothing. You have your music if you want, or silence. So I am understanding that a communication tool like Slack or Teams is also documentation.
Yeah.
You need to properly put it in the right bucket later. Otherwise, if this is going to be a task, this can be lost.
Yeah.
So you need to be very, very consistent with that, very strict in putting the right information in the right place so everyone can find it, right? You are not going to have as much help from just random conversations every single day.
Yeah.
So that's why you need to be strict on writing things down so they are not getting lost.
Exactly. I think it synchronizes with kind of the asynchronous work process that you have, right? If not everyone works from 9 to 5 or 8 to 2 or whatever your times are, then putting it somewhere, putting it in Slack and putting it in documentation allows for other people, when they pick up the work, to get the context, right? To get that. They're not going to call you if they work at night, which means if everyone wants to work in their own time, you need to make sure they are able to do so. And probably a big part of that is documentation, allowing people to get the context without directly contacting someone. Even though I think that is still in and of its own is going to be crucial in some parts, but you allow for kind of that asynchronous work process in that way. Do you think
that's the most important thing? Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Do you think a lot of bigger organizations, I feel like they're adopting kind of remote culture more and more, but I think it's still kind of, it's either going to be hybrid. I think companies still prefer people to come in-house. Obviously, it depends on the company. But do you think it'll ever spill over from a 9 to 5 job into work whenever you want, also in big organizations?
I think it's going to be much more difficult.
Yeah.
So with much more difficult, I want to say that I don't expect that to happen in big organization in at least 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And not as a global trend. Maybe you have more hybrid workplace where you can work remote for certain job functions, maybe 1 day, 2 days.
Yeah.
Big companies have a lot of more job functions that requires them to be maybe not in an office, but in the warehouse or in the work in the industry, for example, right?
Yeah.
Automakers and so on. So not all the jobs are going to be able to do it. And when you are dealing with such a big population of people, like imagine 10,000 people working for you, it's much more difficult to justify that some of them have what it could be a benefit.
Yeah.
Right? No, it's not the right. It's not that they can do it, so let them do it. So the whole company is more efficient, even if it's just 20% of the workforce.
Yeah.
Some of the people are going to be jealous. Is this internal fights, politics? So it's much more difficult in these big environments.
Yeah.
Right? So it will take time for all of the company to build empathy with other roles and let everyone that can work with just a computer to work from there.
Yeah.
Then build the processes or buy the tools that are needed in order to be able to perform at the same level outside of the office, and then keeping for the office the things that are essential to be in the office. As I was telling you, some things are still much more efficient and effective in person, right?
Exactly.
So that's what I think about big companies from my experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, my personal preference is still kind of hybrid. And I don't know if that's 1 day a week at the office or more or less, but I like having that kind of synchronous communication, that bonding, that team forming within my own team. So I can imagine within an organization, you want that kind of, I mean, it's still forming a company culture in a way that happens on site, even though you might be fully remote in that way. But I think is hiring right now, especially in the tech sector, and if we're talking engineers, is becoming more and more difficult. And also, I think the engineers are kind of forcing company hands in that if they can't work remote at a current company, right, because it fits with their work image, their personal image, they want to work remote, they'll just leave and join another company, which if you take that and look at it from a company perspective, I think their hand is kind of forced to still support kind of either hybrid or full remote, because that's what engineers want, right? It's an easier way, it's a more fluid way of working, which means it goes across that 9 to 5. But as you mentioned, a lot of processes need to be aligned before it can actually be effective, right?
Yeah. Imagine some companies are monitoring the work of the people.
Yeah.
So also bring your own device policies, right? So there are a lot of things that has to change for big company.
Yeah.
A lot. And what you mentioned is true. At the end, for me, again, personal opinion, engineers and in general digital product or software teams are driving the move to more hybrids, if not fully remote environments, because now they have the whole negotiation power. You know how the talent war is for software developers.
Yeah.
And if they say, I want this to happen this way, and I can tell you that this is going to be better for you and for your business, and your business is digital.
Yeah.
I have the power, because you know that if you say no, I will go to another company. If
exactly.
For me remote is important, it's part of the lifestyle I want to build for me, I will look for the place where I can do it. And now I have plenty of them, even from companies out of my country that are also raising the salary, because for their base country, like for example US, hiring here in Barcelona, for example, in Spain, is much cheaper.
Yeah.
So if you say no to having my own lifestyle, and at the same time I'm justifying you that I can be more performant if I have this work-life balance this way, have this flexibility, then I will choose another provider.
Exactly. Yeah, it's becoming an arms race, right? And allowing people to work remote is one of the pros. Already you mentioned salaries are increasing because companies are hiring remote, right? If they can offer you way more than what you can get locally, then it'd be stupid not to be like, okay, I might give this a try, right? If you're already working remote anyway. I think hiring is getting more and more difficult. But what kind of hiring globally allows us to do is also hire for diversity better, I think, right? Looking at what you have, looking at what you might miss, and hiring a diverse group that can build whatever you're doing more effectively. Because we already have looked at research and that say that, well, diverse groups either make the most creative solutions or the best solutions, or solutions that are most applicable to a lot of groups as well. So now within that hiring, if your hiring platform goes from local to global, all of a sudden you can hire way more diverse groups. Is that something you've also been actively looking at within your own company?
Yes. Sure. So for me, having a global pool talent available was not only a matter of money. Yeah. Right. It was more a matter of talent availability. Yeah. Right. Name it's diverse backgrounds. Name it's concrete expertise on your industry. Name it's different cultures, men, women, whatever it is. Right. Yeah. When you have a global talent pool available for you, it's much easier to find exactly the piece you need for your team. You are not limited anymore to the people that is living in your city, right? The same for developers, the same for marketing, the same for everything, right? If your city is not used to e-learning companies, if your city is not used to Golang and is more of a PHP city for the experience they accumulated over the years, or what is taught at universities at that city, then could be a problem for your growth, right? If you don't have the right talent, it's going to be a problem. So having this pool available for me is more about, I will have the right growth specialist that is working with e-learnings. So I will get all the experience from him. And then I know that he is going to be happy to contribute to this project that is starting and then growing with the project, because it's good for his personal brand. Yeah. Right. The same for everyone. So for me, diversity of the talent, it's very interesting. And I learned a lot of years ago from one of the companies I work for how this research is true. And I'm proud to say that I was working in a company where women were more than men. Okay. Right? And where we had, I think we were even like 30 different nationalities, and we were proud of that. This is what we were celebrating. Yeah. Right. Like we are able to build creative solutions because we are coming from different countries, from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And at the same time, men versus women is one of the most important things in diversity, because we think differently. We are exposed to different things. We have different bias.
Yeah.
And putting them all together to work, you reach different solutions. And from my experience, most of the times have been much better solutions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's my personal experience. Yeah, my personal experience aligns with that as well. I've worked in groups which were more diverse than others. And first of all, I enjoyed them more just because everyone has their own kind of background, where they came from, even nationalities, right? And just their own perspective on the world. I learned so much within those diverse groups, also on a work level, but also on a personal level. So I think also me as a person, I got better because of it, basically. So allowing that within your company, and also that's one of those pros, right? That's why you would want to join a company as well, because that diversity is there. So I think that's also kind of a way to distinguish yourself from what's out there as a company. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Moving back to kind of a remote company setting, you've tried a lot of things probably. And I'm hoping, well, not necessarily hoping, but I think not everything would be a home run, right? You're going to try things and some things are not going to work out. Some things are going to work out. What are some of the things that you tried and you were like, well, this just doesn't work remote? Basically, we need to figure out something different for this one.
Well, I have problems supporting the operation of the team.
Yeah.
Which means giving a laptop, preparing the remote environment for them, even if now companies are working more on making this a breeze, like remote operations as a service or something like that.
Yeah.
But the first experience is I was just trial and error, and I failed miserably, right? Like where I should buy the computer, I buy it here and then I send it, or I should buy directly in the country of the person.
Yeah.
A lot of troubles, especially related to legislation, because it's not going as fast as the companies need it right now. So because of that, missing the right action, basically, and then having overcost, over complexity, where it should be something more simpler. So I think we are still far from perfect solutions for remote companies, so they are as efficient and everything is as well known and as clear and legally compliant as a company that is establishing a headquarters in a country, right? Yeah, much different.
That's a really tangible experience, I think, or kind of tangible thing, because if someone joins remote, how are you going to get them set up so they can be as effective also from the get-go, right? You don't want to be someone that's sitting around, or have someone sitting around because you haven't provided for them what they need, basically.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. And I was used to these kind of operations because my time at WeFox or Revolut were, well, I knew that I had someone working from Berlin.
Yeah,
I knew that I needed to set up the computer right for this kind of role. So it's not the same computer you need to buy for a marketing person than for a software developer.
Yeah.
It's not the same set of tools that you need to pre-install, the security measures or whatever.
Yeah.
And this was happening through via internal people, or via I have also outsourced this service in the past.
Yeah.
But that was working, right? I was not fighting with more like legal compliance, and I was just accepting that. Yeah. And then rest of the company was working on that, because we were a bigger company. When you need to do that, everything by yourself, is where I failed.
Yeah.
Right? More in this kind of fine details on how to do those fine details, and discovering that, okay, you cannot buy the computer here if you want to have an invoice, because you are a company that is based in Spain.
Yeah.
So you cannot buy things out of your country. Well, this kind of weird things were happening, and then at the end we needed to go back and go through another path, and then losing a lot of time, losing money, but learning the hard way. Sometimes not everything is one home run, as you mentioned, and this can be one example. Yeah.
I mean, it especially happens when you're doing stuff that not a lot of people have done, right? When it's not already out there, the process of how you can get this done. So thanks for sharing, man. I think that's very, very tangible. And I think a lot of people...
Legal things, hiring and providing, which involves bureaucracy, everything that involves bureaucracy, you should keep an eye. You should keep an eye, definitely, because even if now, for example, for hiring, you have Deal on top, other companies that are making it much easier, just paying a commission or a percentage of the gross salary, is still on the early days, and is still very difficult to find the right partners for that, even if now exists. That was not existing some years ago. So we should be grateful, but we need to keep an eye, because some things are not going to work good at the first time.
Exactly.
So
and then the only way to fix it and do it right is to just experience, right? Exactly as you mentioned, it's going to be trial and error. You try this, you learn a few new things, you try something else until you get it right? Because you still need to get it right at some point. You can't just give up. Otherwise, building a company in the first place is not for you, I think.
Or you join remote communities. So you learn from the failures of others, right? We are always encouraging people to find communities, what they want to do, like our community for tech leadership. If you want to jump into the role and you want to get prepared, ask questions, have answers from real people. The same for a remote entrepreneur, right? If you want to learn from someone that has been there already and can make the process more streamlined, then join these kind of communities, either free or paid, but learn from the other experiences from others, right? The information is available on the internet right now.
Exactly. I love how everyone's just sharing their knowledge, right? If you're trailblazing, you figure things out, you share it with some other people, and you pay it forward, right? Other people benefit from it, and you probably benefit from it as well, because you get better at explaining it. But it's just a win-win within a community. And I love that. I love that advice, first and foremost as well.
That pay forward culture is essential to build that communities, and it's part of the DNA I expect. When someone joins my community, in this case, right, I expect them to get the value, to use the value to the most, so taking the full advantage of everything that is there. But I'm requiring them to pay it forward. Otherwise, the model is not sustainable.
Exactly.
I'm not charging you, but you need to give back your time, contribution, helping others, being present, whatever it is. But you need to keep this wheel moving. Otherwise, communities wouldn't exist, right? Yeah,
that makes sense. So, it's kind of a final thing. I'm still wondering how a remote culture forms, right? Because you can have, as an engineer, there's engineering culture, still very vague, but it's a thing. And I think a remote culture, kind of forming that and figuring out your company values for people to stand behind, I think is very difficult from the get-go. How was that for you? Did you already have kind of values in mind that you wanted to seek within people, like within their DNA? Because I think that's also going to be make or break, especially in those early stages. But you need a lot of, I don't know if it's preparation, but you need to know what you want within someone else, I think, within a team already.
Actually, this is another learning I got some years ago from the early stages. So I just applied. The first document I wrote down, even before the idea, was the values. It's selfish for you, but you as an entrepreneur are going to start a very, very hard journey.
Exactly.
You want to work the way you want, because finally you are in control. You are the one that can rule that small ecosystem that is going to be the company. So you want to be comfortable there, and you want to work the way you work. You will find people that relates this kind of lifestyle resonates with them, and you will find them. But that has to be clear. So the first document I ever wrote related to the company was the company values. Was at the end is not company values, is how I want to work. I want to work this way. I recognize myself with these kind of behaviors like high performance or whatever. I am lean. I try to iterate and not try to make the perfection in one shot. So this has to resonate with you. If you can work remotely, but you are this perfectionist, or you are someone that cannot commit to these certain times with the team, you are not a good communicator, you are not a good team player, and you don't like being with people and exchanging time with people and this kind of sense of community-driven product development. So being close to the customer, these kind of things, then the relationship is not going to work in the long term. So I started by writing down how I want to work every single day. Extracting kind of keywords from there, then expanding a bit to clarify and differentiate the topics, And that was the first document I created.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's relevant for me, has been essential. And I think it was a good move to do that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Totally a good move.
That makes a lot of sense, because values are I think not necessarily tangible, but just how I want to work. Let's start with that, right? And from that, extracting those values, and they're not going to be perfect. I love that you lay that out, because you're going to learn. You're going to be like, oh, this doesn't work, or this needs to be sharper, right? Because it's still kind of vague. And you just iterate. You iterate and you iterate until you get it done, or to a level where you're comfortable, right? And you're still going to keep iterating. Things are still going to fluctuate. Things are going to change. So show your values, kind of.
Exactly. With new people, new personalities, new
Exactly.
attitudes towards work, is coming new cultures from different parts of the world. So it's ever evolving.
Yeah.
And you need to adapt to those changes, right? Not restrict what you can do because of that manifesto that you created 2 years ago. This is something live as the people composing the company.
Yeah.
So you need to adapt to that. And getting the best of all the worlds. At the beginning was like how I want to work. Then the team is growing.
Yeah.
Maybe you still didn't know how it was going to be to work with people from Colombia or Peru or China or whatever.
Yeah.
So you need to reflect again, how do I want to work now that I'm working with more people?
Exactly.
Which new things became important now? Which other things maybe became a bit more irrelevant? And we can update those terms and conditions of the company at the end, right? How do we want to operate? That simplifies in this mission, vision, and then the values. The vision change over time with new opportunities. Maybe you see that your niche was not good enough, or you have the opportunity to jump to another one, a parallel one, vertical integration, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The vision is also changing as well, right? So you need to adapt to the changes. That's about agility, right? That's
Exactly.
about adaptability. This is the world we live in with this VUCA world. Everything is happening from one day to the other. So you need to adapt as quick as the world is moving. So your values as well has to be adapted. So the people feels that those values are inclusive.
Exactly.
It's not that you need to adapt to the values, because changing a personality is much more difficult than changing kind of the way of operating for a company, right? At the end, culture, as I say, is what you do every day.
Yeah.
It's not about having a playbook. It's not about mission, vision, values. This is the concrete way to describe it. But at the end, culture is what you breathe, is what you can feel from the company. And what you feel is how everyone is operating, how everyone is making every decision and taking every action every day.
Yeah.
The patterns you see, as you see everyone operating, is where you can extract the words. And now the words are not coming just from what the founder believes is the best way to work.
Yeah.
Now, culture is something that you need to get to gather from the operations of everyone, right? So seeing these patterns and how these patterns evolve over time with more people, with different operations, different tools adopted, whatever, is how the values should be evolving to present it to the outside. Right?
I love that, from kind of starting with what are my values and getting in new people to stand behind those, to be like, oh, what are our values, right? What really aligns within the people that we have? And whenever someone new joins, kind of reflecting, being like, maybe this has shifted, or just adapting, right? Because I think you need to keep adapting or you'll stay behind. And you don't want to stay behind, especially when you're in kind of a market that is accelerating and people don't want to be staying behind. Otherwise you get obsolete, basically.
Exactly.
I learned a lot, man. Thank you for this conversation. Is there anything that's missing? Because we kind of went from your own journey in working remote to hiring new people, building that trust, right? Clear communication, clear expectations, really looking for that long-term win-win, basically, in the people that you work with, to also going into hiring and kind of company culture in that way as well. Is there anything that's kind of missing still?
No, I think we went through a pretty good summary of how it is to operate a remote company, especially in the early stages, right? Which is the moment where you can make or break.
Yeah.
Some of the basic things I took into account that at the end paid off.
Awesome.
I think with this kind of advice, everything should flow and everyone should be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Right? And if not, again, online communities for remote workers. So you learn from them and you know which are the pitfalls they suffered. So you try to avoid some of the most common ones.
Yeah.
And for the others, be resilient. Failing is part of the learning journey.
Absolutely.
And as long as you are able to work this way because you feel is the lifestyle you want to push you because it's going to make you happy, you will be, I think, more than happy to learn, even if it's through failure. And you will be patient to see the benefits in the long term, but you will have the life you want. That's something that not everyone in this world can say. So we are very privileged to be able to choose.
Yeah, love that. Let's end it off on that one. Thanks for coming on, Alvaro, and we'll talk again soon.
A real pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to this session. Very, very interesting to share with your audience how it is to build these kind of remote companies right now in 2022.
Awesome. We'll put links to your platforms and your socials in the description. If you've made it this far on a podcast platform or on YouTube, leave us a review. If you're on a podcast platform, let us know what you think about the show, or let us know in the comment section below on YouTube what you think of this episode. And yeah, Alvaro Moya, everyone.
Beyond Coding. From your sponsors, Zebia, creating digital leaders.